host, Justin Stoddard. And I'm fortunate today to have with me someone who I admire in business and life. He's become a very dear friend of mine. Before I introduce him, let me just remind you the purpose of this show is to help you think bigger. As you do, everything else follows suit. If you look at any of the great masterminds, any of the great leaders of all time, they say it always begins with your thoughts. Thoughts are things. The purpose of this show is to hit that first domino so that you end up having a life of great impact. Today's show is going to be a really special one. As I mentioned, that this is an individual who inspires me both in business, and he's become a very dear friend of mine. His name is Patrick Woods. Patrick, before I give people the full bio on you, I want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come be with us today.
Of course. Yeah, we've been trying to do this for a little while now.
Yeah. You're doing some really impressive things. For those that don't know you, and I know that there's a big part of my audience that does and loves you as well. But you're owner of the Patrick Woods Real Estate Group out of Sacramento area. For those that aren't familiar with the kind of smaller areas outside of Sacramento, he's a KW Maps coach. Coaches about 20 people at any given time. Really, over the course of your career, we discovered that you've logged between 5,000 and 6,000 coaching calls, which is amazing. Yeah. Owner of a KW franchise. Is it Elk Grove that you own? Is that right?
Yes, it's the Elk Grove Market Center. We have about 170 associates, and I've owned it for a little over 2 years now.
Awesome, man. So cool. And then you travel, speak, teach, and train all around the country. And
I do.
And most importantly, well, this should have been at the top of the list. You're an amazing husband and father and proud dog owner, I should say.
Well, ask my wife if she says amazing, but yes, I am a husband.
Depends on the day, right? Sometimes we get the amazing vote. Sometimes it's
the opposite. You just never know. I definitely do my best. So,
well, I'm really excited to get into this topic because how long ago was it that you decided that you were going to run the New York City Marathon?
Well, it's actually Boston Marathon.
Oh, it's Boston. I've been calling it New York. Okay, so Boston Marathon.
Yeah, Boston Marathon. Jenny Wolek, who you had on last week, right?
Yeah.
She's doing the New York Marathon, I believe.
Okay, that's where I get in my head.
Absolutely. So sorry. No, so it's funny. I went on this vacation a little over a year ago, and it was one of those kind of bucket list vacations. And we were it sounds so pretentious when I say it. We were literally on a yacht in the Mediterranean, and it was somebody else's birthday, and they said, "Hey, you pay for the airfare, we'll take care of the rest." And we're like, "Yeah, we're in."
Totally in.
And I was like, this is amazing. And then I started seeing pictures of myself while I was on this trip, out on the top of a yacht, in the hot tub, all this kind of stuff. And I see pictures of myself. I go, I look like that. That was kind of the moment where I said something needs to change. And I don't know about you. I think a lot of us had moments like that where it's like, okay, it's gotten to a point where drastic measures are needed. And so actually, while I was on the yacht, I text messaged Chris Vogt, who's actually now our team leader in Elk Grove Market Center, and he's done the Boston Marathon probably somewhere between 12 and 13 times. He's done Ironman competitions, all this kind of stuff, and he coaches a lot of people. So I text him while I'm on the boat, and I said, "Man, I need help. Will you coach me?" And so essentially that's what's happening is he's coaching me, and we go out and grab lunch. He goes, "So what's the game plan? What's the game plan with this whole running thing?" I said, "Well, I need to get in better shape." And he said, "So, okay, what if there was a bucket list type thing?" Well, if there was a bucket list type thing, it would be to run the Boston Marathon, which is just insane because I know you have to qualify, all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of how it happened. And so there's way more to it. But that's kind of the long and the short. It was purely just how do I get in better shape? And if I were to really dive into this running thing, what would be kind of the bucket list piece? And that was where Boston came in.
It's interesting, Patrick. I had that aha probably a week ago. And I think it's interesting when we get the outside perspective, whether it be through the help of a camera, whether it be through the help of a loved one, realize like, I thought I looked very different than that. When I look in the mirror, I see something very different. Then you see pictures and it's like, that's not me. And I think you've done a lot of training with Tony Robbins and realize that our standards are what we're willing to put up with. Right. Yep. And when you see yourself either via camera or you just have some situation in life that makes you realize like, hey, I'm not living in accordance with my standards. That's not how I see myself. And I'm aware that I look different or I feel different or I'm acting different than the person who I know I'm meant to be, who I am at my best self. So just recently, I gave up 3 days ago, all sugar and all bread, which are my two favorite things. So I can like relate a little bit of having this experience of like, that's not me, and I need to make a drastic change here. So let's continue on here with your story. So you decided you're going to run it. You've got a coach, which is also very telling because even coaches need coaches, right?
Yeah, so I got him as a coach, and then I got a nutritional coach that helps me with my diet and all that fun stuff. And there's so many things that you learn during this process. So originally, when I signed up for this, the goal was to run a half marathon, my second half marathon. And kind of the whole thought process was, I'd love to get to a place where I could run a half marathon the way that most people would approach a 5 or a 10K, where it's just like, hey, it's tomorrow, let's go do it. And so that was kind of where I wanted to get from a fitness standpoint. And yes, like literally I was on that trip, and my buddy goes, wow, you're looking pretty thick. And I thought he was talking about my guns, and he was more talking about my tummy. So I realized that after the fact.
So you've got this coach now, and you're moving towards your goal. Keep going.
Yeah. So I started running, and then we start out with, okay, just jog, walk 2 miles. I was like, come on, I can do better than that. And of course I go out and I start running, and I'm like, maybe I do need to jog, walk 2 miles just to get going. And next thing you know, he's got me trained up where I'm running 8 miles just as one of my long runs and all this kind of stuff. And in that process, I actually ended up getting shin splints really bad, and to the point where I got stress fractures, and I had to take 6 weeks off right before the half marathon. And so the doctor said, you got to take 6 weeks off. No running. Maybe 3 weeks into it, you can start doing elliptical, which of course I did not do. And so I just enjoyed not running for a little while. And then a week before I get cleared to run, and I text my coach, I said, hey, do you think I could still do this half marathon? And my goal was to do a half marathon in less than 2 hours. I'd done one before, and it was 2.5 hours. And so I texted him, hey, do you think I could do this? The question is not if you can, it's if you should. I said, well, I'm going to go run, see if I can run 8 miles. If I can run 8 miles without any pain or anything like that, then I'll do the half marathon. Long story short, I ran 8 miles, no pain. I did the half marathon. My goal was to get less than 2 hours, and I finished with 2 hours and 2 minutes after taking 6 weeks off. Right? Okay. So, and I left that one going, this is really fun. This is really cool. Of course, the endorphin high and all that fun stuff. And I just go, okay, what else can I sign up for? So I signed up for California International Marathon. And with that came a discount to the Urban Cow, which is in Sacramento, which is a half marathon. So we started mapping this whole thing out for me to do CIM in December. And the half marathon last month would have been just kind of like a little stop along the way. And the goal for the half marathon was to do it in 1 hour and 45. Then I went to Austin, and I was one of the lucky ones that hopped on one of those scooters. And I wasn't even Evel Knievel. I say I was Duke Kaboom. I don't know if you've seen Toy Story 4. I have. The Canadian version of Evel Knievel that doesn't land any of his jumps. Yeah, so I went over the handlebars. I was literally going from a meeting to go facilitate a mastermind. And I was riding one of those scooters, and just, it's so funny. I bumped into a buddy of mine named Tony Brody. And I bumped into him on the corner, and he goes, man, be careful on those things. Everybody's getting hurt. I'm like, I'm fine. I kid you not, a half block later, I hit something in the sidewalk, went over the handlebars, landed on my arms like this, and then my chin hit. And next thing you know, I'm coming to. There's somebody standing next to me that's called an ambulance, the whole deal. I get up. And of course, the first thing I'm worried about is turning off my scooter so I don't get charged anymore. And everybody else is freaking out, like there's an ambulance on the way, the whole thing. I talk the ambulance out of coming. I'm checking my arms. I go, they're sore, but I think I'm fine. Just a little kind of out of it. I go and teach a mastermind to about 30 people. Later I find out I have 2 broken arms and a concussion. So yeah, and we went to dinner that night. I was like, you know what? It's sore. It's fine. If it still hurts like this tomorrow, I'll go to the hospital. No big deal. At dinner, my arms start locking up to the point where I have to have my friend actually cut my food for me because I couldn't get both my fork and my knife up there. At that point, I said, maybe I should go to the hospital. So long story short, broken arms, concussion, and I had to take about 6-7 weeks off of running again. essentially right before the half marathon.
Okay, so let's stop here for a sec. Total plot twist, right? I mean, not only was it going to be a stretch to, what's that?
One of my finer moments, by the way.
I mean, not only was it going to be a stretch to do like the marathon and hit the times that you wanted, and then to qualify for Boston, which is a bucket list, but now you find yourself broken arms and 6 to 7 weeks off. Anybody that's trained for a marathon knows like every week is critical, right? There's this build up, and you take a 6 or 7 week window out of there, and in your head you must have thought, I'm changing the goal, right?
Well, yes and no. So I was supposed to do a Spartan in Tahoe right after that. So it was a Spartan Beast, and that was 13.1 miles of course. And the only reason I deferred that till next year, because when you have broken arms, Spartans aren't just running. It's a lot of coursework and stuff. So that'd be the only one where I said, okay, we're going to push that one out. And the half marathon, I just said, you know what, I got to take some time off. And I'm still going to run it. Where I shifted a little bit was, can I hit the hour and 45-minute mark? So that's probably the only thing I changed. I did nothing as far as the half marathon of actually doing it, or the California International Marathon in December changed. So that was going to stay. And so about 2 weeks before the half marathon, I started training again and went out and we did the half marathon. I didn't get an hour and 45. I got an hour and 58. So I essentially got my goal from last year or the beginning of March this year of what I wanted, sub 2 hour. I got that on this one. So
with 2 weeks of training.
Yeah. Well, and more leading up to that. And the hard part is just you work so hard on some of these things like the diet and exercise and all that. And then you have something like that sets you back. And then next thing you know, you're not exercising. I still can't do a lot of stuff with my arms. So I can't the only thing I really can do is running or elliptical or cycling or stuff like that. I can't do anything with my upper body really. But you start making choices where you're like, you know what? I'm kind of in a funk. I think I'm gonna have a cheeseburger for lunch. And so you gradually start watching all that work go away. And then you hit that same point where it's like, good grief, I've worked for about a year now to get to where I was right before I broke my arms. I'm not going to give it up that fast. And so you jump right back on the horse pretty quickly.
So winners do, right? I think, the human tendency is to, if there's an easier way or if there's a way out, by default, we tend to be like, you're right. This has been really hard. And I really tried, but now I've got broken arms, right? So let's compare this to business. How have you seen this show up to business, Patrick? You've got people who set big goals. Yep. They're moving along towards their goal. They're even like surprising themselves. And then all of a sudden adversity hits. What is the tendency that most people do that maybe is like relates to what you could have done?
Well, yeah. And what most people do, including myself, right? And that's kind of been the most interesting thing. I'm still sitting here going, do I even really like running? I don't know. Which sounds kind of weird as I'm doing all this. What I love about it is the mental aspect of it, because there's so many lessons to be learned from this journey that I can apply to so many other things. And I think where a lot of people they get hit with adversity is they don't have a finish line. And that's the thing that I've noticed with this running is if I didn't have the half marathon or the full marathon as my finish line, I would have every excuse in the morning to say, you know what, it's cold outside. I waited, now it's too hot. You know what, I worked really hard yesterday, I deserve a break. When you have that finish line, I've got a half marathon I've got to run, I've got a full marathon I've got to run. I started playing this devil's advocate in my head going, you know what, if I don't train, I'm going to be a fool on that run. I'm not going to look very good. I'm not going to feel very good. I'm going to wish I'd never signed up for it. So that's kind of the negative self-talk that I use to empower myself to get up when I don't feel like it and go running anyways. And so that's where I look at it. There's a couple of things. One, progress, not perfection. And then trust the process. And my coach will tell me, run slower, run slower, run slower, which seems counterintuitive. And lo and behold, when I'm running slower and he's taking me further distances, he throws in other training programs in there. Next thing you know, I'm running a faster mile pace. So he's got a method to his madness, and I have to trust the process, even though it seems counterintuitive. The other thing is most people, when they get hit with adversity, they don't have a finish line that they're shooting for. They have a thought or an idea or a dream, but they haven't actually with a marathon, you put pen to paper, you put your credit card down, you tell your friends, I'm running a marathon on December 8th, and the world knows. Like, you're kind of stuck in making sure you do that. So that's where I think a lot of people will fail, is they just don't have that finish line in their business, in their relationships, whatever it is that they're shooting for. They've got a goal, a dream, a wish. They don't have a finish line.
I want to talk about something here that stood out for me. I was out on a morning run, and I like one of the workouts that I do is I'll run 1.5 miles at a pretty good clip, and then I'll try and beat my time back. So second half, you're obviously more tired. For me, it's a little bit of an incline coming back, like, and I'll try and beat that coming back. And I remember at one point, one morning, I was like, I'm not going to make it. Like, I just need to stop and walk. Like, I'm behind pace. I'm not going to make it. And the tendency was like, I have to beat this or I stop. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to do it at all. And like, I had to tell myself what you're telling yourself there is just trust the process. Just keep going. Just keep going, keep going. And what ended up happening, I did end up beating my time back. And again, that negative self-talk oftentimes steps in as it's perfection or nothing. Like, if you can't do it perfectly, then you shouldn't do it at all. And the reality is none of us can do it perfectly, right? Especially at first. And so it's this lie that tells us, that keeps us from actually doing the work that will eventually lead us to perfection.
Absolutely. As you're saying that, I think about just some of the little things too that happen on this journey where you start running and, gosh, my knee's a little tight, my ankle's a little tight, and then you keep going and it all loosens up, right? And so that's the same thing in business and in life. You're going to have instances where things are going to start to work against you and cause your brain to go, maybe I should stop. However, if you just keep pushing through, it will start to loosen up. You'll hit your stride. And what's funny, one of the worst runs that I've had in all this training is 2 weeks ago, I ran 14 miles. And it was miserable. It was the only thing I can say that I'm happy about is that I finished 14 miles on my feet. And what's funny is last weekend I ran 16, and my 14th mile was my fastest mile.
Wow.
Out of the whole run. And then yesterday I ran 17 miles. My 17th mile was my fastest mile out of the whole run. And it's funny, not funny, is in Sacramento in Northern California, we had the wind, which is why all the power outages and all that stuff. I kid you not, I ran 17 miles into the wind the whole way. No matter which way I turned, the wind would change, and I was running into a headwind the whole way. It was an interesting day. So you just start looking at that and you go, okay, where could I really power through? Like, on your return, where could I power through? And once I kind of loosen up and hit my stride, all of a sudden you're going to be in the zone. And then what's your motivation when everything in your body is saying, okay, I got to quit. I got to stop. I got to walk. What's your motivation that's going to cause you to keep from walking? Same thing in business, same thing in anything else in life. Right? It's the games that we play. I'm sure you've done it when you've gone out on a run. A lot of people have, where they go out on a run. It's like, okay, I just need to make it to that stop sign. Right? Then you make it a stop sign. You're like, well, what if I can make it to that fire hydrant? And then you make the fire hydrant. Okay, what if I make it to the next stop sign? And it's no different with anything else, because our brain's telling us we want to quit. And, we get to the stop sign, it's like, wow, I still have a little bit left in the tank. I remember this when I ran this last half marathon. My son's old soccer coach, my wife was there, and she was like, oh my gosh, Kelly Segaris beat you by like 20 seconds. It was so crazy. It was her name, then your name. It's like, man, if I knew she was there, I would have tried a little bit harder. My coach got mad at me. He's like, oh, you had extra in the tank, huh? It's like, yeah, you're probably right. So what's our motivation? I'm competitive. I like to win. And so, I mean, we're kind of going all over the place. The thing that's happened now is the goal was to run, the bucket list was to run the Boston Marathon. And because of some of these injuries and frankly, just starting out and running, I didn't have enough runway to get to where I could be at a pace for a qualifying time to run in 2020. And so my coach connected me with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and they get out of thousands of people that run the Boston Marathon. I mean, my age group, qualifying time is, I think it was 3 hours and 5 minutes. So you're talking like a 7-minute mile for 26.2 miles. And I'm going, wow, well, some of my faster times are like 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So I've got quite a bit of room to improve. So I didn't have a runway, so I connected with them. My coach connected me with them. And out of all those bibs that they have, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society gets 35 bibs, and probably 15, 20 go to Boston chapters of LLS. And I was able to get one of those out here in Sacramento. So that's how I'm running the Boston Marathon. And so even yesterday, as I was running and I was like, man, this is really tough, I started thinking of my wife's grandmother, Jackie, who her son's named after, and she passed away from leukemia. And so you start looking at ways that you can motivate yourself just to push through, even when things are a little tough. And then, you know what? I got home and were my legs sore? Yeah. And we still hung out and carved pumpkins and did all that kind of stuff. Like, clearly I didn't leave it all out on the field. I wasn't dead when I got home, right? There was more to give. I just had to come up with something that I could, some sort of mantra or thought or belief to power through, even when my mind was saying, you know what, you've made it 16, you can walk a little bit right now. So
if all of a sudden someone that we loved were in jeopardy, we'd find like an entirely new tank of gas that we would tap into.
For sure.
You and I both read the book, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, in which he talks about when you're at 40, like when people think that they're done, they're actually at 40%. I always think about that when I'm like, I can't do anymore. I'm like, actually, I got more than half still left in my tank. It's my mindset that's stopping me. Again, back to the whole purpose of the show, the Think Bigger, is that once you start to be around people like you, Patrick, and your experience, and you're around other people that inspire you, is that we start to realize like, oh, what I thought were my limits aren't actually my limits. And we start to actually expand that thinking a little bit, and our own possibilities start to expand. And we start to realize like, you know, I can do more. I don't have to settle for saying, this goal was too lofty, or I can't do this, or this isn't for me, or it's not working for me, or, you know, nobody knew that these extenuating circumstances were going to happen. But instead, we can find another way around it, as you have.
Well, it's as you're saying that, all I'm thinking about is there was a moment in time when I used to say, gosh, running 26.2 miles, that's impossible. And what's funny is now that I'm doing these runs, I go out and I go, okay, I've got to run 17 miles today. This next weekend I have to run 18, or I get to run 18, right? And you start going, wow, 26.2 is actually possible. Like, it feels like I could actually do it. So you go from, that's impossible, I could never do it, and you start working the system, and then all of a sudden your mindset starts changing to where it goes, it's not impossible, it might actually be possible, to where you go, wow, I definitely can do this. I don't know what my time will be, but I can definitely do this. Then you get to a point where it's like, I've finished one, what can I do to get better? You know, and so I'm sure there's people out there that do Ironman and all that, and they laugh at my 17 miles. And then there's people like me a year ago that were, are you kidding me? You're going to go run 17 miles and call it fun? So I'm
even inspired by our friend, I can't remember his name right now, but who just broke the 2-hour marathon barrier, right? And like, I think about that when I'm out running and I'm like, this hurts. And I'm like, you know, I'll be fine. I'll be just fine. Let's talk really quick, Patrick. You have a class that you teach and speak around the country that you teach. It's called You Fueled. Give us a couple highlights of that, just so people here within my audience are aware of what you're teaching and can get access to it, hopefully in the very near future.
Yeah, absolutely. So I teach a handful. I travel around the country, and I've been to places I don't think I ever would have gone to had it not been for the opportunity to teach this class. So I teach You Fueled. I have another class, One Secret Skill Every Billionaire Masters, and I also teach some Keller Williams courses. So You Fueled, what that is essentially what I see happen in business and in real estate in particular, because that's the world that I live in, is the people will go to a class. Here's how you take 10 listings a month for life. Right? And they go to that and they leave all excited about how to take 10 listings a month for life. And then how many of those people do you think that attend that class actually take 10 listings a month for life?
Maybe 1, maybe 2.
Even that, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a problem there. And they went and they got inspired and they got entertained. They got some education. They got some processes, some models. However, there was something missing here that would cause them to take action. And so what my class, the You Fueled class, actually addresses is, tell me why you got into real estate to begin with. What were your goals, dreams, and aspirations? Right? Because people don't shift into real estate with hope. They come in going, I want to be my own boss. I want the unlimited income opportunity. I want to create wealth. I want to be in control of my schedule. They come in with some pretty big and specific goals. And then somewhere along the way, they lose sight of that and they get caught up in the task of doing the business, right? And then also, what was your exit strategy? What was your end game for, because I don't think anybody in real estate wants to be 87 years old or 102 still writing contracts, right? There's this other piece of it where they watch these shows like Fixer Upper, Flip or Flop. They start going, I can make all this money and have all this time and all this knowledge so I can actually create wealth. Back when I got in, it was Carlton Sheets, How to Buy Real Estate with No Money Down. I had this audio cassette tape program, right?
I bought them too. Yep.
So that's kind of the thing. And so I want to get people back in line with why they got into real estate and what's their end goal on their exit strategy. And that when we can connect those two pieces, that's where I think those classes, like, which are great classes, here's how you take 10 listings a month. It gives a why behind it, right? To align to their goals, not just because it would be cool to do it. And right. So that's essentially what You Fueled is about getting back connected to here. What caused you to take the leap of faith on yourself to get into something like real estate, which can be pretty scary and pretty intense and quite a big risk? Was you had specific goals and you had an exit strategy, a dream for your future. So let's get back in line with that.
And it is, and this really ties in nicely with your story, right? Is that you had a bucket item list to run the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
And you'll learn different tactics and different things on how to run faster. Obviously, adversity hit. But in addition to that, it would be, it doesn't matter all that, even though you know in your head how to run, even though you know you're even like committed in your heart to the tactics, if you don't remember, oh, that's right, I'm doing this because I didn't like the way I was showing up in the world. I was out of shape. I set this bucket item list to run the Boston Marathon. Unless you keep that present in your mind at any point during those 17 miles when you're training and the 26.2 miles, you'd be like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating when you start looking at it. And what's interesting is when I first partnered with LLS, I'm going to be completely honest, it was a path to get a bid to run in Boston in 2020, right? And my wife was like, do you feel like that's okay? And all this, we had this whole conversation. And what's been interesting, because here's the deal, is LLS is happy to do it if I can raise the funds for LLS. It's a win-win, right? And what it shifted from was, here's a path for me to run Boston Marathon, to over the last handful of weeks since they accepted me. It's quite a humbling experience to have somebody say, we believe in your influence and your ability to connect with people to help us raise money for such a worthy cause. And by the way, you get to run Boston as part of that. And it's shifted to, wow, what an honor to be able to do something for such a great charity. And running the Boston Marathon is secondary. That's a vehicle to raise the money, not LLS as a vehicle to run Boston. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Your why got a lot deeper rather than just, I want to be in shape. I want to look better when I'm on my next yacht in the Mediterranean. It became about,
I don't know that that's going to happen again. That might have been a one and done kind of thing. I would love to do it though.
You'd be invited to my birthday. Let's just plan that. That's where I'll have my 50th. It'll be about 10 years from now. I'll give you some time, maybe 45th. But anyway, you deepened your why along the way, right? It's no longer just about you, something superficial so I can look super good. Not to say that that's totally superficial. It's healthy, right? Being healthy for you and your family. Yep. But at the same time, it's like, this is a cause that even someone that we're related to passed away from. I love that. I think there's deep lessons in that, is that if our why is not sustaining us through the difficult times, maybe our why isn't deep enough. Maybe it's not something that really moves us and moves the world.
Well, how cool is it to have something that is affecting change here, physically, spiritually, all that kind of stuff, that's making an impact out here.
Yeah.
Right. It's really cool. And I remember, I'm going to do just kind of a little plug for LLS. When I remember when I was filling out the application, and you put in your plan on how you're going to raise money and all that kind of stuff. And you need to tell a little bit of a story about how cancer has impacted your family or your world. And I started going through my wife's grandmother, Jackie, my grandfathers all passed away from cancer. My father-in-law passed away from cancer. My dad is currently fighting cancer. He has carcinoid cancer, which is more or less incurable. It's just time, right? And he beat testicular cancer. And then that's just right in that little bubble. And then you start going further out when you start including friends and coworkers. Like, that list gets really long, really fast when you start thinking of everybody who's been impacted by cancer. And so that was where it really hit home with me. And so that's what started that journey to be like, my gosh, this is much bigger than just running the Boston Marathon. This is much bigger than just getting in shape. And yeah, getting in shape and running the Boston Marathon are pretty awesome byproducts of doing something really incredible. So,
man, that's super powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And would you do us a favor? Would you send me, Patrick, the link to donate? We'll put it in the show notes. So I would invite anybody that's watching this. If you've been affected by cancer, then we would encourage you to step up and donate. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for all of us to put our heart where our mouth is. So
the website's just PW runs, PW for Patrick Woods runs.com.
Easy.
Right on there. We're hitting close to the end of the year, so it's a tax deductible donation too. So
love it.
All the excuses you need to make a good impact.
Awesome, man. I love it. I'm going to ask, I'm going to now jump to the signature question of the show. It's the final one that we love asking all of our guests because you're a big thinker, hence the TV here behind me, Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I want to tap into your brain a little bit. You are a guy that continues to expand your own possibilities. You're a guy that continues to find ways to think bigger. Will you teach us what are some things or a thing that you do to continue to encourage that process, to continue to not get stuck where you're at, but to continue to expand your own thinking,
Oh gosh. You have the basics, which is you got to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that are thinking bigger than you are. I mean, a lot of things you've probably heard before. And it's really easy for us to say that. Like there's a lot of really book smart people out there that will tell you, oh, you gotta go change the circle that you hang with, and they are still hanging around the same circle, or you need to do this. Here's what I've observed in all the classes I teach and all the things that we've got going on. Like we have business planning clinic going on in our office right now. So teaching the agents how to set up their 2020 goals and map it out and do the math and all that kind of stuff. I guarantee there's going to be some people in that class that are playing all out. And when there's exercises to do in the class, they're actually doing the exercises. Then there's going to be another group of people that when it's time to do exercises, they're going to get on their phone or they're going to step out and use the bathroom, but they're just avoiding doing the exercises. And so the thing that I would say would cause you to think bigger is when you actually take pen to paper. All right. And so when you're in a class like that, taking that time, because you've already blocked out the time. Odds are if you don't do it in that class, you're going to leave and you're never going to do it. So take the time to put pen to paper. And then here's the other thing that I love. We did this in one of the classes I was in, was you essentially map out your vision for your future. And then you hand it to somebody that you really respect and admire and have them challenge you on, are you playing big enough or not? What about this? What about this? And you have to fight for your limitations. So we did that and it was like, man, we should do that once a quarter. So for me, I've got a whole vision map of all the businesses and all that stuff. So that on a business level, that's what I'm always looking at. And so not to be too long winded here. I remember, do you have 2 seconds for me to share a story?
Absolutely.
So I made this vision map. So I have my Woods Management, which is my kind of holding company for all these, for my market center, for my real estate team and all this stuff. And on there, I had my MAPS coaching and I had some other legs to that business. I had ancillary businesses for the market center. And then up here, I had Keller Williams ownership. And so I put on there the market centers that I would like to own or that I already had ownership in. And then on there, I said, well, what's bigger than owning a market center? Well, having ownership in a region. And I'm in this class and I go, what's bigger than having ownership in a region? Like if the whole class is about thinking bigger, where am I scared to go on here? And so I wrote in own a country, own a franchise country for Keller Williams. Now here's the crazy part of it. Every time I've done something really crazy and scary like that, I give you example after example after example. When a pen to paper on something like that, I kid you not, 2 weeks later, I had a friend of mine reach out to me and said, hey, we're going to launch a country for Keller Williams. Would you like to invest? I don't know how it all came to be. It was just weird that I was freaked out that I was putting it on this and then it came to fruition. Now I didn't end up investing in it. It just wasn't the right timing for me. However, the opportunity was there. So maybe just putting the pen to paper caused me to be aware of the opportunity and engage in conversations I wouldn't have had otherwise. Don't know. So those are some of the things that I do, and hopefully that helps.
Dude, I love it. That is super, super powerful. I think some things that we can all take away today. Actually, there's countless things, everything from overcoming adversity, deepening our why, and how to think bigger. So, Patrick, I want to thank you so much for being such a valuable contributor to the Think Bigger real estate mission. again, is to assemble a tribe of big thinkers, people who want to continually expand their possibilities and live lives of great impact. I'm going to finish with these final 3 words that the audience is used to hearing me say, which is a charge and an invitation to all of us, which are go think bigger. Thank you, Patrick, for your time today. It's been a total pleasure, man. As always, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, my friend. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.